Hello and welcome to my franchise rewatch for the MCU. This is part 2 dealing with phase 2 of the MCU. All the films I'll be talking about in this video are available to stream on Disney+. Without further ado, let's get to the reviews, starting with Iron Man 3 from 2013. Tony dealing with PTSD was an intelligent story choice. It humanizes his character since most people would be dealing with the same thing after what he went through in the Avengers. That's probably the only positive thing I could say about this movie, because the rest is just okay or infuriating. Starting with Harley, I found his character was an annoying addition, and I don't blame Ty Simpkins since he was just a child at the time and can only do so much with what's on the page and the direction he receives. I also found the Mandarin twist frustrating despite retconning done in All Hail the King and Shang-Chi. Aldrich Killian is also a very generic villain. A nitpick I have about this film involves a private conversation taking place in a public place. This happened when Happy is talking to Tony in the Stark Industries lobby about Aldrich Killian and his bodyguard, while the bodyguard was at most 10 feet away from him. Comparing this film to Iron Man 2, that film had a better villain, while this film had less setup for the future, and was more focused on the story it was trying to tell, despite falling short. I rated this a 3 out of 5. Now let's move on to Thor: The Dark World, also from 2013. The last time I watched this film, it was my least favorite MCU movie, and I said I would never rewatch it, yet here I am, rewatching it. And honestly, it's not as bad as I remembered. Don't get me wrong, it's still a deeply flawed movie and low on my Marvel ranking, but it's no longer at the bottom. Thor and Loki continue to be the best part about these movies because of how well Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston play off of each other and embody their roles. I noticed recently with the Shazam 2 issues, Zachary Levi has complained about how small his role in the Thor films are. At first I thought he was acting like a whiny celebrity baby, but now I can see what he means. Comparing the role Sif and the Warriors 3 played in Thor to this film, they had much less to do here. Another problem I had with this film was how they revealed Loki's fate before the end. We see Loki on the Dark World transform into an Asgardian guard, and later see him on Asgard talking to Odin before we see him on the throne pretending to be Odin. They should have removed the transformation effects, then we would have been surprised at the end when we see Loki on the throne. I rated this a 2.5 out of 5. Now let's move on to Captain America: The Winter Soldier from 2014. This is one of Marvel's best movies. I loved seeing Sam and Steve's relationship begin to develop. I also thought the partnership/friendship between Steve and Natasha was enjoyable. I noticed during the cruise ship battle that Captain America is as stealthy as Batman and as agile as Daredevil. When it comes to the villains of this film, Alexander Pierce, Hydra, and the Winter Soldier do not disappoint and are among Marvel's best. The way this movie hides who the threats are is pretty good. I also believe Arnim Zola could have been an earlier version of MODOK had things panned out differently. Another thing I enjoyed about this film is the score, which gave me chills. One of the few issues I have with this movie is the usage of shaky cam and excessive cuts during the fight scenes, although they aren't as bad as other films and you're still able to tell what's going on for the most part. Another issue I had was with the aging effects on Hayley Atwell, which looked somewhat disturbing. Luckily, they were improved by the time Endgame rolled around. Some other things I want to add in. I noticed Steve crossed Star Wars off of his list, so I assume he must have seen it. That's also coincidentally the only thing Disney owns on his list. I also noticed that the seeds for Civil War were sown in this film. Steve discovered that a Winter Soldier, likely Bucky, killed Tony's parents from Arnim Zola. I also believe Nick Fury left Earth shortly between this film and Avengers: Age of Ultron, but we may learn more about that during Secret Invasion. I rated this a 4.5 out of 5. Now let's move on to Guardians of the Galaxy, also from 2014. James Gunn knows how to take a ragtag group of people and make a great movie about them. He's done it twice already, and potentially more in the past, and he's going to do it again with Volume 3. He trusts in the audience so much that he drops us into the world knowing that we'll be able to follow the story and discover the world these characters inhabit. The Guardians crew are so likable, each in their own way. There's a gorgeous variety of locations and beautifully crafted CGI environments that help immerse you into the cosmic setting. While Ronan is a more generic, pure evil villain, This film can overcome that as an issue because of its cast and the focus being placed mainly on our heroes and not entirely on the villain. There's also a fantastic soundtrack that James Gunn wrote into the script, just like Edgar Wright or Quentin Tarantino would. I rated this a 4.5 out of 5 as well. Now let's move on to Avengers Age of Ultron from 2015. Surprisingly, I found this film slightly better than the original film through this rewatch. James Spader was an excellent choice for Ultron, since his voice is incredibly menacing. And sadly, he didn't come back to voice the character in What If, because Ross Marquand sadly could not capture that same spirit that James Spader brought into the role, unlike he was able to do with Red Skull. I also thought Bruce and Natasha's relationship was beautiful, as both see themselves as a monster, while they're complex and troubled individuals, as with the rest of the team for the most part. Each of the Avengers also has their own character moments in this film, and their team rapport is better due to the actors growing in friendship off-screen. They also each have their own role to play within the team. Captain America is the leader, Iron Man bankrolls the team and works as part of the Science Bros with Bruce, Hulk is their powerhouse, Thor is their cosmic connection, Hawkeye is their heart, and along with Black Widow, they're both infiltrators. An issue I had with this film was that the Hulk VFX seemed downgraded compared to the last Avengers movie, seemingly bridging the gap between the Avengers and the Incredible Hulk. I also felt very icky when Bruce was tossed over the bar while fighting Ultron and landed on Natasha's breasts, mainly because it reminded me of Justice League, and knowing the background of that situation makes me wonder if anything like that happened on the set of this film. I rated it a 3.5 out of 5. Now let's move on to the final film of Phase 2, Ant-Man from 2015. Despite filming in the same TV aspect ratio as the Avengers, it looked a lot better. I believe that's because this movie deals on a minimized scale, so it can make everything look bigger. I also love how this film plays with size of everything. It's a fun comic book movie, and I think much of that credit belongs to Paul Rudd and his ability to get the cast to play off of him. I believe the plot is as good as it is because of Edgar Wright's original draft. Although I assume many things were changed from that, the original conceit of a heist remained. I also would love to see what he could have done with this film had Marvel given him free rein. Maybe he could get that kind of treatment at DC Studios if he's interested in making another comic book film. I'm counting Scott Pilgrim as a comic book film, because it technically is. Corey Stoll tries his best with the villain Darren Cross, but he couldn't match the energy of villains like Justin Hammer or Red Skull, and ends up being more of the generic same versus same villains like early Marvel projects. I rated this a 4 out of 5. Now for this ranking, I'm going to be going over both the phase ranking and its current overall ranking. At number 6 is Thor the Dark World, which is overall number 10, just above Iron Man 2. At number 5 is Iron Man 3, which is overall number 9, just below the Avengers. At number 4 is Avengers Age of Ultron, which is overall number 7, between Captain America and the Avengers. At number 3 is Ant-Man, which is overall number 4, between Iron Man and Thor. At number 2, both in the phase and overall, is Guardians of the Galaxy, leaving the top-ranked Marvel film both in the phase and overall being Captain America the Winter Soldier. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button. If you have any recommendations or thoughts about these films, leave a comment down below. I am already done watching the films for part 3 of the series, so it should come out next week, Thursday. I was a bit delayed with this video coming out, but I won't be next week, and the week after will probably be Phase 4, and maybe a little bit of something for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, because it doesn't look like it's going on to Disney Plus anytime soon. So stay tuned for all of that and more. Thanks again for watching.
Bucky, you've known me your whole life. Your name is James Buchanan Barnes. Shut up! I'm not gonna fight you. You're my friend. You're my mission. Then finish it. Because I'm with you to the end of the line.